Bonavista Baptist Church and friends checking in. This is the Friday spiritual checkup for June the 12th. And this is the last edition of our top 10 or top 13 book list that I've been sharing with you. At the beginning of this, I thought I would just journey through kind of top 10 books that have inspired me over the years, the kind of books that I turn back to again and again, the kind of books that become like mentors to me. Not just the books themselves, but the authors specifically. And so as I put that out there, I started to hear back from you what your top 10 list or sometimes top 20 list of authors and books were. So I've had a look at all the different emails, all the different lists that came in, and I have some top authors that we all kind of share in common. And so we're going to get right to it. Author number one, this was the top author that people showed up on their list again and again and again, and that is C.S. Lewis, and specifically the Chronicles of Narnia, but also a whole ton of C.S. Lewis books, and that was not really a surprise to me. From a childhood right to adulthood, C.S. Lewis has such a wide range, and he's still being read today, and I'm very thankful for that, so that's great. Second on the list was a little bit surprising, but still really good. Dietrich Bonhoeffer and the Cost of Discipleship. I didn't realize that so many people had accessed this book because sometimes it's a little bit harder to digest or to read, but that's great. Dietrich Bonhoeffer is right in there with the list that we share in common. Okay, after that are some names that weren't on my list, but were certainly on your list, and it's authors that most of them I've read as well. Next on the list was Philip Yancey, and this is very popular, and I've really appreciated his writing. He came to our Banff Pastors Conference a couple of times. The Jesus I Never Knew is the book that really came out and seemed to have an impact, and there's a whole video series. You can see Philip Yancey with his nice hairdo, and very popular, very insightful, very helpful. That was next. After that was a surprise again to me. And the surprise was an author by the name of Andrew Murray. And Andrew Murray is an older author. He was very popular in a certain time period amongst holiness writers, devotional writers, and two of his books cropped up on our list, one on prayer and one called The Spirit of Christ. And so that was interesting. Andrew Murray made it to the list. Next, wasn't a terrible surprise to me, Lee Strobel, The Case for Christ, and of course made into a movie that you can watch. I think it's worth watching, and the book itself became very, very popular, and many people have found that one helpful. Right after that, and it might just be the timing of this person's passing, but Billy Graham, his book on angels, and people grabbed that and have read that, and that cropped up on the list there as well. And then one last that I'll mention that was really common, because there are lots of other authors, but it was just one here and one there. But the other one that came up several times was David Wilkerson, The Cross and the Switchblade. And that comes from a certain era, certain generation in particular, and that was a very impactful book. And so that's where we have it. So there's the list. Lots of other authors have been mentioned. It's great to see that people are reading and reflecting and engaging in theological conversations through reading these different books. Well, what's next? I think as I did this experiment and reflection, I realized that there's some holes in my reading, and I kind of need to fill those in, especially given the current times and situations. And so there's been a couple of books lying on my shelf that people have given to me that I haven't read yet. And these are books I think that are going to really challenge me, books that I'm going to have to interact with and really reflect on. And so here's 3 books that are next on my list, and maybe I'll post an update as to how I did with them. One is called The White Man's Burden, and it's a kind of a fascinating look at how we in the West have tried to help people in what we've often called third world countries, and how a lot of those attempts have actually done maybe more harm than good. It's not specifically a theological reflection, but it does impact what we do as a church and what I do as an individual in an attempt to help, in an attempt to do something that's basically good, but could have really negative effects if it's not done properly. So that's a challenge for me, The White Man's Burden, why the West's efforts to aid the rest have done so much ill and so little good. Wow, I think that's going to be a challenge. The next book is also going to be a challenge for me, and it's not a book per se, it's a compilation of different authors and writings, and I received this from CBM and from our strategic associate, Cheryl Bear, and this book is called Rights to Wrongs, and it has to do with our churches and how we can engage in Indigenous peoples, specifically in Canada. And I think that's going to be another challenge for me, and I need to read this and work through it. How do we as a church engage in some of these issues? That's another big challenge. The last book, the third book that I'm going to get a hold of and read is by Rachel Held Evans. Rachel passed away tragically last year, 2019. She was only 37 years old and had written a lot of books and had quite a profound impact in evangelical circles within the United States and Canada. And so the book that I'm going to read from Rachel is Searching for Sunday. And just want to see some of her journey and just kind of get into that story a little bit. So those are on the horizon for me, and I think they're going to be really challenging books I'm going to have to interact with. And I encourage you to do the same. Look at your reading list, look and see maybe where are some of the holes in that reading list, and read beyond that. And that can be a challenge for you. Let me know how it goes. So thanks for checking in. Next week, we're going to start a whole new theme, and we're going to look at what does it mean to be a Baptist? Should we still call ourselves Baptists? Does it matter? Aren't denominations all kind of collapsing and all the walls coming down? And so we're going to look at some Baptist distinctives and why I feel it's still important for us to understand both our heritage and our voice within the kingdom of God in present day. So tune in next week. We'll look at that together. Thanks again for joining, and continue to watch for new videos coming your way. Thanks.